Welcome, everybody, to the Friends of NPACE podcast. I'm Terry Schmidt, the Executive Director of NPACE and a practicing family nurse practitioner. And I am beyond excited to introduce today's guest. She's graciously agreed to share her time and her story with us, and I am just thrilled to dig into it. So, Dr. Danielle McCamey is an acute care nurse practitioner and presently serves as the Assistant Dean for Strategic Partnerships at the Johns Hopkins School of Nursing. Her scholarly pursuits and fervent dedication are centered around propelling diversity and development within the nursing workforce. A visionary in her field, truly. Danielle is reshaping the landscape of nursing through her groundbreaking nonprofit, DNPs of Color, which I am a proud member, which she founded. And through this initiative, she created a thriving community of DNP prepared nurses of color, and she's catalyzing a surge of representation within the nursing profession. Welcome, Dr. McCamey. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Terry?
Good. Thank you for being here. I'm already gushing. I'm going to try to get that under control. How are you today?
Oh, happy that it's Friday, ready for the weekend to just, reset and just enjoy being in the house for a little bit.
I get that. Sometimes you get a little tired of peopling. You do a lot of peopling.
I do a lot of peopling, and like October was a whirlwind. I've literally been gone peopling every weekend. And so I'm like, okay, let's just. And then last weekend I was practicing. So it's like, yeah, this weekend before Thanksgiving, I get to just chill and enjoy the chill of Baltimore. It's like 30 degrees up here.
Really? Look at you. Oh, that is cold.
And it's cold.
It's cold where I live today, but when I say what the temperature is going to be, my staff like roll their eyes. The Boston staff are like, "Oh yeah, poor you." So it's only going to be 70 today here. It's a little
Uh,
bit.
yeah, I'm hanging up
That's
now.
the thing. No, you're not. October was great. I want to get into the story, but what did you do in October? What were some of the things that happened for you in October?
October was lit for me. I just have to be honest. So it started off with a trip in Boston. I'm a member of the American College of Chest Physicians. So I got the opportunity to help facilitate Miss Virginia Allen to get an honorary fellow in the American College of Chest Physicians. So
Oh my
I was
gosh.
able to usher her on the stage and she received her designation. So really, really excited about that. And had a really good time in Boston. And we're doing a lot of work with chest for nurse practitioners and PAs, but we can talk about that later. So then
Okay.
after that, I ended up we had our annual conference for DNPs of Color in Philly, which was absolutely amazing.
It
We
was.
held it at the Franklin Institute, which is a science and technology museum. And for those that don't know, we love hosting our conferences in a museum. I should say I like it. My team cringes every year because hosting a conference in a museum has weird logistics that you have to accommodate for. But nevertheless, it was awesome. We had our mix and mingle event in a planetarium. So that was really cool to be under the moon and stars, and our education piece in one of the theaters there. So that was really dope. And then the last weekend of October, I got inducted into the American Academy of Nursing. So October was lit.
Oh my God, so much went on. I don't even know where to start. Congratulations on the fan,
Thank you.
FAAN. Much deserved. And the pictures were amazing from that. And
Yes.
your work definitely deserves to be recognized. I can't think of
Thank
anyone
you.
who deserves to be a part of that group more than you. Uh,
Right.
your conference was great. I love museums as well. And while I was there in Philly, I love museums so much that I went to the Philadelphia School of Medicine, their museum, the one with all the skulls and
Oh,
the
yes.
body. What is that called?
It
Yeah.
starts with an M or
Yes.
we actually looked at it as a potential venue for the conference, and I was like, man, that might be a little bit too eclectic. I can't
No.
remember it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
We'll talk about your conference a little bit more, but one of the things that was so beautiful about it is the center around art and expression and how critical that is to our professional lives as nurses, which
Yeah,
is rare for us to talk about. We talk about the art of nursing, but this whole creative side and embracing that, especially
yeah,
because of all the things we deal with in nursing,
yes, yes.
perpetual trauma. Just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yep.
that was great. I love that you were at Chest, and I love that you got to escort Virginia Allen. See, we're already way off topic here. After reading Black Angels,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, I am a fan of history and of literal history and disease epidemiology. Like it's the thing I really love to indulge in. And reading that book about tuberculosis and
Mm-hmm.
what not only what happened systemically, but how the nurses just still showed up and
Yes.
did the thing and
Mm-hmm.
saved the people and ran the drug trial and
Yep.
like changed the course of
Yes.
history of a
Absolutely.
disease. This
Mm-hmm.
group of Black women
Mm-hmm.
who just didn't throw up their hands and say, well, I'm just not going to do this thing.
Yep.
And you got to like meet her and lead her on stage. Oh,
Yeah, she's fantastic. Like she's 93 years old and she's representing the Black Angels because most of them, gosh, all of them have died except for one. But there's two cohorts of Black Angels. There's the Black Angels that were part of the cure, and then there's
mhm.
those that came after the cure. So those part of the cure are all passed away. But there's one after the cure that's still around, and that's Curleen Jennings. I think they're based in Texas.
Gotcha. Interesting. Fascinating book. If people have not read it, they should. Anyone who's in nursing. It speaks to the impact of nursing as well, which sometimes
Mhm.
I'm not sure we celebrate enough in
Absolutely, yeah.
healthcare.
We
Yeah.
definitely highlight our contributions and how significant they are and how impactful they are. We're just not socialized to. So,
No, that's a good point. I read that on your post about the being a fellow of the American Academy of Nursing. You took a moment to celebrate yourself.
sure did. I really did.
I loved it.
I made a extra cinematic video to share about my impact that was it served its purpose. I knew that I was going to be in front of a lot of influential, powerful people, and I wanted to stand out and make a point so that it was clear what my impact was. So, one of my our official photographer and videographers of DNPs of Color, Cinematic Imagery, they put together a nice little video for me, and it's been the talk of the conference.
Because it was amazing. If people haven't seen the video, they should go look and you should set a trend. I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Which leads me to actually the first question we're going to talk about. So, in season 2 of our podcast, my goal as a
Yeah.
nurse is to really hear people's stories. So, tell me your journey into nursing. How'd you find your way here?
My mama.
Was your mom a nurse?
Yeah, so she's always done community nursing. So lots of home health nursing. And also, she had a large part of her career in uh, hemodialysis nursing. So, but I got the spark when she would take me on her home health assignments. And she's a single parent, and so no childcare. And thankfully, the home care agency, was inclusive of everyone's, living in life situations, and her clients welcomed me. So she would take me along with her, and she would set me up in a corner and be like, don't move, don't talk, here's your coloring book and stuff like that. But it gave me an opportunity just to watch her and see how she would be so meticulous in the care of people. And she didn't call them her patients, she called them her clients. And I felt like that put a different spin to honoring their humanity, that they were part of the process and their healing and wellness.
Wow.
And so I was so inspired by that. And so I remember one year, I had shared with her, I was like, I want to be just like you when I grow up. And she was like, you absolutely can, but go beyond me. I want you to have the opportunity to do so many things on a greater scale. And she got me like this little plastic medical bag. So I had a plastic stethoscope. So when I would go with her, her clients would let me listen to their heart sounds with a little plastic stethoscope.
And
I just
thus
knew I was
began the
doing
career.
something. I was diagnosing and I was treating at age 5.
Well, so your long legacy in healthcare and
Right?
career, I love that so much.
Hmm.
I think it's rare sometimes that we get to see our parents in their
Oh,
work life and who they are. My mom was a single mom for a while and a career woman, and
mm.
I never saw that. But I read a study somewhere sometime that children of moms who worked and had careers tend to go to college at higher rates and succeed more
Really
in life. Yeah, I'll have to dig that up. Yeah, I'm like,
interesting.
interesting. Particularly the daughters. Yes.
Makes sense though. I mean, because they're modeling it. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
I love moms. So, how'd you end up being a nurse practitioner? What was that journey like?
Oh my gosh. So my great uncle actually, who's passed on, he was a Capitol police officer, and he always history buff, political buff, always engaged in, and then with him being on the Capitol, on Capitol Hill, having his ear to the streets on what's the turning of the tides of everything. And so he calls me up and he's like, Sugar, you need to go back and be a nurse practitioner. And I'm like, don't want to be a nurse practitioner. I'm fine with, my practice in the medical ICU. And he was like, the tide of healthcare is changing. The shortages of physicians to take care of people in primary care is going to get worse. And from what I'm hearing, nurse practitioners are are offering skills and expertise that can meet the demands that we're going to see as people get older, people are going to be accessing primary care and those kind of things. So he's like, you need to go back to school. So whenever my uncle spoke, I listened. And so I went back to school. And the place that I went back to Georgetown, and they had an offering where if you were a full-time employee, you would go and they would offer scholarship, 80%
Wow.
in coverage. And so I was like, that's a win-win. And if you wanted that 20% covered, you would have to stay an additional 2 years. So I went back, and best decision ever. And glad that I went back to get my NP in acute care, and have stayed in acute care basically all my career.
I love that. So, what area of acute care? What's your specialty?
So surgical critical care, and our particular service is unique because we have so many different service lines that we rotate through. So we have MICU, we have
Oh,
neurosurgery, CV surgery. We also have, I guess we call it like medical cardiology, which is not necessarily my favorite. I like the CV surgery, neurosurgery, or general MICU service. And then we also run the procedural teams and the sepsis response team.
wow. Basically, everything critical as far as
Literally
ICUs.
everything. Yeah, we probably in my practice we probably have close to 100 APPs. We're a pretty large service.
Wow. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's, I find that fascinating. We could
Mm-hmm.
talk about that all day because I know nothing. I try to keep people out of your service. My
Please,
goal is
thanks.
to try to keep them out
Thanks.
of needing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I hate that. Well, oh, I love this journey so much. I love that your uncle was so intuitive,
Oh
like
yeah.
ahead of his time and not even in healthcare.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's how he was. He always had his ear to the streets and in tune to so many different things, always giving wise counsel. So
Wow. And sometimes I think on our journey, those people don't get enough recognition. I love that you brought
Oh
him
yeah,
up. We all
absolutely.
have these like sages in our lives that you're like, yeah, they probably know what they're talking about.
Yes.
Oh, well, shout out to your uncle and your mom. Thanks to them, we have you here
Yes.
now. So, what I wanted to talk about why I brought you on, although I could talk about a million things, you know me, but I want to talk about DNPs of color because it's unique, it's
Hmm.
important, and what you've done, I think people need to hear the story. So,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about that.
Well, so I created it because my own experience of wanting a community that saw me for me and that could offer me insight as to how I should navigate going to school, getting through school, and then once I graduated, like what kind of things should I be engaging in? Like, what's the path forward? Because when I was going through my DNP program, I was the only Black woman, and I didn't really feel included in a lot of things. And I saw that there was varying levels of support that my cohort mates was getting that I found that I wasn't necessarily getting. And there's tons of hidden curriculum and backdoor conversations that happen in nursing that I wasn't privy to because my lived experience was I literally clawed my way to get access to doctoral education. And the way, being socialized is like, you got here, now you need to prove your worth. And
Mhm.
you probably aren't worthy being here. So you have to work 10 times harder, but keep your head down and just do your work and just go home type of mentality. And, you know, I I ran up on some challenges that presented stay or go, and I knew leaving wasn't an option. So I was like, I've got to do something, and I've got to do something quick. So I put together a Facebook group, and it grew exponentially in such a short period of time. And the commonality amongst us that came to this group was the same lived experience, that first generation, no one's ever gone to get their doctoral education, feeling isolated, excluded in their institutions. Most of us are educated, have been educated at predominantly white institutions, PWIs, because there's only 6 HBCUs that have DNP programs. So you're basically going to be going to a PWI, and just people just sharing their experiences, and we finding healing and connection and inspiration organically just through being in this Facebook group. But then also another key thing is expanding our network and access to other opportunities, and also keys to the game secrets. People started sharing, like, did you know about this fellowship? You need to talk to this person. When you're writing this essay, you need to craft it in this language because it aligns this way. So stuff started becoming clearer for us and how to navigate and strategize to be successful. Because once you get your doctoral education, specifically in nursing, it provides you a different level of power, influence, and impact, and access to different communities that, had you not had it, you would never be aware of this whole world that exists.
I think that's really well said. Community to support each other,
Mm-hmm.
which is missing in so many other nursing organizations, period.
Yes.
All of them are kind of a prove yourself mentality or who you
Yes.
know. It's really hard to break in unless you're already somebody.
Correct.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta work on that. We have to, first of all, we have to call it out. You and I
Yes.
both. Here we go, talk about controversial stuff. I'm sure I'll get emails. Um, we gotta stop this and we have to call it out in nursing. I know that system has served a purpose,
Correct.
but there's so many others out there. And, there is baked in racism. There just is. But the whole system, from the moment you enter nursing school, is prove yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How clean is your, I mean, I went to school when it was how clean is your uniform? How long is the skirt? How wide are your shoes? Does your watch have a
Wow.
second hand? That whole,
Mm.
so it starts the second you present yourself.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Mm. So on this journey, you said it just kind of took off and took a life of its own. Tell, which I love. Tell me when you knew it was going to be so big that you were going to have to do something formal about this.
I was in denial for a while because people kept looking to me to lead it. And I was like, yo, I just put this together for my own selfish reasons. Like, I just need a community just to like vibe out with and just, just vent and vibes. That's all I'm here for venting and vibes. And I just kept feeling that pull and that tug, like, you're the one to lead this. And I'm like, no. And because I had the vision clear. Like I literally created the mission, vision, and goals, like probably within a month of putting the Facebook group together. Like it just downloaded, and what you see is what was given to me. And it was like, you're the one that clearly sees the gap. You're the one that can articulate the gap and the solutions. And you're the one that
Mhm.
has the gift to bring people together. And I was like, so I sat on it. I put in the nonprofit paperwork in 2018 and I sat on it for 2 years because I was just fighting that inner, anxiety and lack of confidence, because I was like, to run a nonprofit, like you have to be a business person. Like I am a nurse. Like they don't teach us how to like, look at budgets and hire staff and, run a corporate organization. But throughout that process of me kind of sitting on it, I was creating the bylaws, the basic policies, the strategic plan, and I've had all that stuff together. And then I ended up feeling anxious about what I created, and I ended up hiring a nonprofit consultant. And I was like, I know this is like not good. I don't know what I'm doing. And she looks at all my documents. She's like, there's literally nothing for me to do. You have created all the documents that you need to just launch tomorrow. You can just launch tomorrow. And I was like,
Not tomorrow, I'm busy.
literally, like she's like, you just need to, appoint a board because she's like, you even thought about the meaning of the colors, the symbolism of the logo. She's like, there's literally nothing for me to do. So, I ended up appointing a board, which was a mixture of people that I had met along the way and some mentors and friends. That's usually how the first board of directors is anyway. And they didn't have much to comment on. They were like, yeah, this is okay, great. So we started, laying the foundation of what we see now. And it's just been wild,
It was meant
but
to
a
be.
fun ride. Yeah, absolutely.
Two things that impacted me on what you just said. One is just your creative nature, the creativity that went into this, like you were creating all the while, um, which harkens back to the art and the museums and
Yes.
how this is so holistic. But the
Mhm.
other thing is that I said to you not long after we started talking is you have a gift for connecting people. Like that's your thing.
Mhm.
Wow, it's really impressive too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Don't you hate it when you're when the universe just brings you the thing and keeps bringing it up with a
Yeah.
neon sign and you're like, stop.
Just leave
I
me
don't want to.
alone. I don't want to do it.
Yep.
Because it pushes me out of my comfort zone. Like people never believe me when I say I'm an introvert. I'm like, literally after every speaking, it is a push to, like, I have to get into a different zone beyond myself, like literally. And I have to thank acquiring those skills from my athletic days when I used to run track, because track is all mental. Like you'll be running and it's like, oh my gosh, I got a cramp, but I gotta finish. So having that ability to just transition into a zone, and then also understanding, and another concept that I learned from Disney is a lot of the people play characters. So it's like, you transition into that character when you are in that uniform. And so that's how I translate it to be able to give that energy is I'm like, I am the CEO of DNPs of Color. This is my character hat. I'm on stage. So that energy is CEO of DNPs of Color. And you get in that zone. The
I
finish
love
line,
it.
the end of that 10-minute talk, and then
Yep.
go high.
And unpeople and be yourself. Oh, so your alter ego is CEO of DNPs of Color. I love it. It's your superhero mode.
Superhero mode, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of things, and the other things I have to do is like wear high heels, like, just really get out
Yeah.
of, it's just kind of weird, but that's just kind of what it is.
I roll my eyes because I hate heels.
I
Since the
do too.
pandemic, I'm not friends with them
Oh,
anymore. I,
yeah.
in fact, wear tennis shoes to most of our conferences now. I have an alter ego. My staff have named President Business. And when I pull her out, they're all like,
Gangster, right? Yeah, we gotta
yeah,
get done.
yep. She wears business clothes and she's
I
really
know that's
formal.
right. Yes.
She's not me at all. So I love this organization. And
Mhm,
one thing I've seen being, thank you for allowing me to be a part of that group.
mhm,
That's so different from any other nursing membership organization I've had is one, it's real.
mhm,
And two, it's so social. What's
mhm,
happening in your closed group is so supportive.
mhm.
And I don't want to say informal, but I don't feel like I have to wear my suit jacket and be on my
Yeah,
best
it's
behavior.
authentic.
It's real, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's so missing from large nurse from that landscape. Like we could all take a lesson
Mhm,
in how refreshing that is and how much people just need that
mhm,
safe space to be themselves.
mhm, mhm.
Kudos to you on that.
Yeah, and I think some of the secret is that we've been able to tap a group of professionals that don't ascribe to the status quo because
Um,
people are seeing people for the humanity and their contributions and not necessarily the accolades or the alphabets that come along, with what in my mind is the old standard of nursing. Which is why
mm,
I get conscientious of all these alphabets that come after my name because I'm like, the work that I do does not need validation of the historical traditional structures that deem work worthy because the work is going to go forward with or without the credentials. And for me, it's a strategy because there is a large part of nursing that still ascribes to that old guard mentality where they take stock in having those accolades. So for me, getting these things is part of the strategy to gain access to information and representation of this community in these spaces, but not to become those spaces because we can't.
mm. I love that that's a conscious decision on your part.
Mhm.
And there is so much work in healthcare. And sometimes it takes these people who aren't educated yet who can think outside the box and have not been ingrained by the system.
That part, that part.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your speakers really embrace that too. For anyone who thinks they might be interested in your conference, they should do it. It's a different experience. It's spiritual in many ways.
Mm-hmm. We get that a lot, which is so amazing to me.
It's sacred. It's like nothing I ever experienced. And yet it, I don't know how to explain this. My work in nursing
Mhm.
has been because of my core values as a human. I have
Mm,
never regretted my decision to be a nurse.
yeah.
There's
Yes.
no more than, there's no I should have been a doctor, there's no I was there's none of that apologetic.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I am a nurse is for all of the reasons that your conference pulled out, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes
Mm-hmm.
sense,
Mm-hmm.
and validated that
Mm-hmm.
beyond just science and education.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hmm. So what are the goals for DNPs of Color moving forward? What
Oh
do you
man,
want?
we got a lot of things on the plate. There's so many things to talk about, but the major buckets for us is continuing to um, build up our infrastructure because we've grown exponentially, that having more infrastructure to support the growth and the demands that the membership wants. So we are a year out from being an official membership organization. So really developing the infrastructure. The second piece is obviously a focus on membership. So ensuring that we're providing quality experiences for membership. And then the other bucket is our programming. How are we going to start creating that? I have my DNP now, what
Mhm.
post DNP educational experiences. And so we have a couple programs um, in place that we've launched. One focuses on really curating the and honing in DNP prepared nurses expertise to do research, whether it be benchmark research or more extension of more quality improvement things. So we're developing a research agenda as an organization, and our
Ooh,
research
nice.
committee is launching initiatives to help support those that have an interest in wanting to really hone in on those particular skills since they are doctor prepared. And under our research committee, we have what's called our My DNP Manuscript Mentorship Program. And this is for people that have DNP project papers that are just, they need that transition from paper to manuscript, or people that have had a paper that's just been languishing for a couple years that they just need that extra push to get them to the finish line. So we'll be hosting our third cohort this January. And so far, we've had two cohorts and 90% of people have published, 100% have at least transitioned their papers to manuscript and submitted. So,
Wow.
mhm.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Yeah, so there's that, because publication is key in nursing, especially academia. So people need that mentorship to get them to the next to the finish line. The second program that we're doing, we call it the Dimensions in Nursing, and we capitalize MEN, men and dimensions in nursing. And this program focuses on males in nursing that have their DNP, and we launched it last year with our Dimensions in Nursing Summit, and it was around utilizing barbershops for the
Mhm.
epicenter of health for African American communities, especially males. And there were different practitioners that spoke on their ability to do preventative primary care in the barbershops, from health screenings, blood pressure checks, vaccinations, but also partnering with the barbers to give them education on how to speak to their clients on the importance of preventative healthcare practices, healthy foods, colon cancer screenings, prostate cancer, like all these things.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
truly partnering with the community to center their needs and allowing them to be the mouthpiece on what health looks like for them. So that was huge. So more to come from the Dimensions in Nursing program. The other program that hasn't launched yet, but will be, is the Art and Soul of Primary Palliative Care. And this is a fellowship where we are incorporating the arts into teaching practitioners how to engage in primary palliative care, advanced care planning for their communities. Because for me, palliative care is like one of my secondary specialties. It's what I did my DNP project on, but realizing how empowering palliative care can be for our communities, just to help them navigate and advocate when they are in healthcare spaces, to get access to communication, to understand what they need, but also how to optimize when they're faced with any chronic or um, uh, life-changing illnesses. So that's going to be really exciting to launch that. And then we have our um, subject matter speaker series, where we allow our national platform to be accessed by DNP prepared experts and then also DNP students. So they get that opportunity to have a national audience to share, whether it be their DNP project or whatever subject matter that they're an expert in on our national platform.
So much going on. I love every single bit of those. And of course, as you started telling me how great these are, one of the things I do when I talk to people is I gasp and kind of amen because I was raised in the Ozarks and I'm like, yes. And then the guy next door started his blower. He's blowing leaves. So sorry, audience, if you heard the blower during that great stuff. Um, the dimensions in nursing, that project, phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be any outcome measures for that, or is it just initial stages like action and?
Yeah, so what I'm learning is we have to start being a better steward of metrics and outcomes because that's helpful for grant applications
Right.
for people that want to toss dollars. So yes, there will be metrics and stuff associated with initiatives that we will do through that program. And one of the programs, we're thinking about mentorship from um, uh, middle high school students and even males in the profession because males are also underrepresented in nursing. So there'll be lots of good stuff coming out of that initiative is being led by Dr. Dwayne Aline, our board chair. He's always had a passion for increasing male representation in nursing, and then specifically because our mission is centered on DNP prepared males.
I want to talk about that with him. We should podcast on that. But I also want to hear more about the palliative care because I talked to Elena Pendergrass, who I had been introduced to before. Yes. And she and I connected at your meeting. And she's a death doula, but also does palliative care.
Yes.
And it's something we're missing, especially as our patients are aging. It's just
that part,
normalizing.
That part. So Elena's part of our work group that's developing the art and soul of primary palliative care.
Okay, I'm writing all this down.
So the program officially is called Care Beyond the Cure, CBC program. And so we're going to launch it next year, but essentially it's going to be a fellowship where we'll have access to curriculum around death doulas, advanced care planning, utilizing palliative care to advocate for your care needs, to gain help with your voice, and then also just we'll have the provider side, which helps them how to craft these conversations with their patients so that they can get the advanced directives, they can get the advanced care planning pieces completed and crafted in as such so that it doesn't look like doom and gloom, death, dying, end of life things, because palliative care gets a really bad rep, and it's people automatically associate palliative care with like hospice care, but palliative care is the specialty and hospice is one of the branches from the overarching specialty. You can engage in palliative care and not be at end of life. It's just utilizing that specialty to figure out how to optimize your quality of life while you're dealing with illness, life-changing diseases that might result in end of life, but might not necessarily.
I like that analogy. It's like, I mean, OBGYNs, sometimes they deliver babies and do pregnancy, but that's not all they do.
Exactly.
Okay. Oh, we should talk about that sometime too. I'm going to try to have Elena on sometime just to talk about, because I mean, the concept of birth doulas is common, but a death doula, what a genius idea, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's that leaf blower. Sorry about that, audience. Okay. So NPACE is primarily right now nurse practitioners, although we're growing that into all APPs, mostly primary care, but we're growing into the acute care. This audience, there's one thing they should know about DNPs of color. What is it?
It's an inclusive space for everyone, and there's an opportunity for professional development and connecting with other professionals to expand your network, which will expand your net worth. And so I think that's critically important, especially for nurse practitioners that we don't get socialized to networking and thinking about professional development outside of clinical development. And all of it helps to contribute to your success in advanced practice.
Well said. Network for your net worth. I love it.
Yes.
You guys are doing phenomenal work. I really appreciate you being here. How can people find DNPs of Color? Where can they find you at?
Yes, DNPs of Color is on all the social medias. So our handle is at DNPs of Color. And we're transitioning off of X onto Blue Sky. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Pinterest. So literally
Good
just
gracious.
Google DNP of Color and you'll find us.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. McCamey. You're amazing. The work is amazing. However we can support you, just let us
Yes.
know. Yeah, we're going to do some follow-up podcasting. This is great.
Yeah, you
Okay.
got a whole list of guests that you need to invite. So
Yeah, you just filled up season 2. Thank you. All right. To all of our listeners, be sure to check out npace.org for information on all things NPACE. We do the clinical professional development. So if you need farm hours, come see us. We also have it at learn.npace.org. We're an ANCC accredited provider, and we're now sometimes doing CME through AAPA at some of the conferences, in person or on demand. But this podcast, when we publish it, will be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and we're going to launch it on YouTube. But you can find out more about DNPs of Color and Dr. McCamey's work at all the places she let us know. Thank you again for being here.
thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.